Today we have 74-year-old Sarah with us. The headline is very bold. Stop explaining your no. Sarah, when did you learn this?
I'm 74 years old and I want to start by telling you this. For years, every time I said no, I spoke as if I were defending myself in court. My sentences started with because I'm tired, because of the kids, because of work, and every time I added a because, I handed the other person a new card to play. Look, in this photo, I'm 22. I'm smiling in my wedding dress, but now I can see the fear in my eyes. If I say no, I won't be loved. My mother always told me to be a good girl. A good girl doesn't argue. A good girl doesn't upset anyone. A good girl softens everything by explaining. And that's who I became. At work, I never questioned overtime. I just said, sure. In my family, I carried everyone's burden. Even when I had nothing left, I kept spending my energy for other people because saying no felt difficult and selfish. But the real issue was this. I wasn't saying no. I was saying maybe. When I said, it's hard right now, but maybe later, the other person got hopeful. Then do this, they'd say, and I'd add explanation after explanation, as if a good reason would erase my guilt, but the guilt only grew with every extra sentence. In this photo, I'm 38, I have 2 children in my arms, and my face is worn out from exhaustion. That's when my body started speaking for me. Migraines, insomnia, aches, illnesses. I laughed when the doctor said stress. It wasn't stress, it was a lack of boundaries, because I was trying to do everything people asked of me without protecting my own limits. I learned this late. I want you to learn it early. Keep this in mind. No should be a sentence, not a paragraph. You don't need to elaborate. When I was 73, the phone rang one afternoon. My daughter's name was on the screen. She had just given birth and her voice was trembling. The moment she said, "Mom," the old reflex inside me kicked in. I have to do whatever she wants. Of course she's my daughter. Of course I want to help. But I also had a hospital appointment the next day, and I hadn't slept properly in 2 days. I told myself, this time I'm going to set a boundary. And then I heard myself say that familiar phrase, "Honey, I really want to, but..." If you've ever started a sentence with "but" and somehow ended up making a promise, then you understand me. I pulled the phone slightly away from my ear and started counting in my head. Calm down, Sarah. Saying no doesn't make you a bad person. And the moment I heard what my daughter wanted, a long explanation rushed to the tip of my tongue again. Even worse, I was trying to smile while saying it, as if softening it would make it easier to accept. "Honey, I'm going to the hospital tomorrow, and I'm very sleep-deprived today. But I don't want to leave you alone," I said. Before I could finish, my daughter's tone changed. "Mom, I don't have anyone anyway. Everyone is busy." "Are you too?" she said. Do you know how a woman feels when she hears that? A weight on your chest, like your heart is about to be stamped with bad mother. So I started talking to shake that weight off. "I didn't mean it that way. I have an appointment, the doctor won't wait, and you know I couldn't come last week either." I just kept going, and every detail turned into bargaining. "Then come after your appointment. Come 2 hours late," she said. "Mom, even 2 hours is enough." I didn't say okay. I said, "Let me see." And that's when I lost, because "let me see" really means I can be persuaded. The moment I said it, it was like the little girl inside me sat down at the table and tried to please everyone. My voice softened, my shoulders dropped, Before I even made a decision, I found myself apologizing. Does that happen to you too? I don't know if it's just me. After the call ended, I scolded myself. Sarah, you did it again. You explained again. You sacrificed your needs for someone else's. And then it got worse. My daughter called again. Since you have high blood pressure, I have a monitor. We can check it here. Postpone the appointment, she said. So my buts had turned into her solutions, and you might find yourself making plans right after you try to say no, because this isn't just a habit, it's a learned role. The strong woman who manages everything, keeps everyone together, and ignores her own exhaustion.
What happened that day, Miss Sarah? How did the person you were talking to react when you stopped explaining?
That day at first, I continued the old way. Look, honey, I want to, but I said it again, and then suddenly it was like I heard my own voice from the outside, like I'd been singing the same song for 40 years. Don't upset me, and I won't upset you. In this photo, I'm 54. It was my father's funeral. I served tea to everyone. I held it all together, and no one even asked me, "How are you?" Because I was always strong. That's what everyone knew me as.
I'm gonna jump in right here. In the next video, you'll see an interview with an 81-year-old woman who talks about the day she stopped playing the role of always being strong. Sometimes the hardest thing to say is, "I'm tired too." Stay tuned so you don't miss that video. Now, Sarah, what did you stop saying no to, and what did you do instead? And how did you handle that with your daughter?
That night at 74, I whispered to myself for the first time, I won't defend my no. I picked up the phone again. My fingers were trembling because I wasn't afraid to say no. I was afraid to stand by it. When my daughter called, I didn't soften my voice. I didn't force a smile. I took a deep breath. The old good girl inside me was panicking, but this time I took the wheel. Honey, I said, I can't come tomorrow. A brief silence, then the expected question, why? This was the pit I'd fallen into for years. Why is not always curiosity. Sometimes it's a door into bargaining. For years, I walked through that door and explained myself. I explained my blood pressure. I explained my appointment. I explained my insomnia. And then the other person used every detail to find a workaround, to convince me. This time, I didn't step through that door. It doesn't work for me, I said. Mom, 2 hours is enough. I can't come. That's very selfish. The moment I heard that word, an alarm went off inside me. Normally, I would have jumped into defense mode. I'm not selfish, but I had promised myself. I kept my voice steady. I didn't raise it. I didn't beg. I can't do that, I said. My daughter pushed again. But I'm all alone. My heart tightened. That sentence is hard for a mother to hear. But I learned this. Someone else's need cannot override my boundaries. I have needs too. I have a body too. So I said one more clear sentence. I'm sorry. My decision won't change. Then, not to rescue myself, but to clarify the boundary, I added one more sentence. This sentence was crucial for me. I'm not going to discuss this. If you feel guilty when you try to stop after saying no, without explaining, just know this, you're not alone. And if you want, save this video, because one day when you really need them, you'll remember these 3 sentences. It doesn't work for me. My decision won't change. I'm not going to discuss this. My daughter's voice rose. My throat tightened, but I didn't step into an argument. I love you, I said, and I still can't come tomorrow. She hung up. I didn't cry right then. First, a heaviness, settled in my chest. Guilt showed up and sat down. Then I pulled myself together and repeated, saying no doesn't make me bad. It means I'm protecting myself. Her message said, okay, I understand. So, I can't trust you. Look, that line is meant to hit your guilt. I can't trust you. As if I'm no longer a mother. As if I'm suddenly the villain. Normally I would have rushed to fix it. I would have written a long explanation. That's not what I meant. But I kept my hands off the keyboard, because if I responded to that sentence, I would fall into the same game again. I learnt this too late. Some people don't ask why. They look for an open door. And the moment you start explaining, you open that door with your own hands. Here I am, 50 years old. When my mother was sick, I took on everything again. Everyone praised me. You're so strong. I liked that praise. I didn't realize strong often means you have no right to ask for help. That day, my daughter's message showed me this. For years I had confused love with service. I ran to be loved. I carried things to be approved. When I said no, I felt like I had cut off love. But real love is love that can stand next to boundaries. So I wrote myself a rule. I want you to write one too. The rule was, I will not make decisions out of guilt. If you want, pause and think about this. Who pressures you the most to explain yourself when you say no? Your mother, your spouse, a sibling, a boss. Write it in the comments so we can all see the pattern. When I read it, I realized this. It isn't just our personal problem. It's a habit taught to women. That day, I didn't respond to my daughter right away. Later that afternoon, when I had calmed down, I wrote one message. No defense, no long story, just clarity. My dear daughter, I hear you. I know you're struggling. I can't come tomorrow, but today we can call someone to be with you. If you want, let's call these two people together. Notice, I said, I hear you. I didn't say you're right, because the moment I say you're right, I cancel my boundary. I offered compassion, but I didn't let go of the steering wheel. The next day I went to the hospital. Sitting in the doctor's office, I realized something. My body had been telling me to stop for years, but I had always rushed to answer other people's calls. That day, for the first time, I said to myself, I'm human too. Even saying that felt strange, because for years I had turned myself into a service provider. That evening, my phone rang. It was my daughter. I answered. Her voice was softer. Mom, I was angry, she said. I repeated to myself, don't explain now. It's okay, I said, and I still won't be able to come tomorrow. Yes, I said it again, because a boundary isn't something you say once and forget. A boundary is something you calmly repeat again and again. And in that moment, my daughter asked for the first time, so, how are you? Believe it or not, I froze, because no one asks that of the strong one. No one asks that of the woman who always holds it together. I hadn't heard that question in years. When my daughter said, how are you? I couldn't answer for a moment. I couldn't find the words. I was so used to checking on everyone else. Even naming my own state felt inappropriate. I took a breath and spoke calmly and briefly. I'm tired, I said. I need to rest. There was another silence. Then my daughter's tone changed. You've never said that before, she said. And that sentence summed up the pattern I had lived in for years. I had hidden my tiredness too, because looking strong was what people expected from me. That day, I made another promise to myself. I will express my feelings, but I will not explain my limits. My feeling was, I'm struggling. My limit was, I can't come. Can you hear the difference? Feelings create connection. Limits create clarity. When you mix the two, feelings weaken and limits get broken. My daughter asked, "So what should we do today?" I kept it short again. "Let's call someone. Let someone be with you. And I'll rest today," I said. Short and clear. Some people hear this and immediately ask another, why? If those questions corner you, repeat the same sentence in the same tone, the same length. It may sound like a technique, but it's actually self-respect. And yes, you have the right to end the conversation right then and there. You don't have to explain yourself. Stop this video here and ask yourself, can I end this conversation? Then come back. That evening, my daughter and I talked again. This time I said, I'm sorry, but I did not feel guilty. Because promises made out of guilt eventually turn into anger. I lived that for years. I helped, then I resented it, and then I cried. Why doesn't anyone think about me? Now I understand. No one learns to think about you unless you set boundaries. The following week my daughter tried again. Mom, since you're resting, at least come in the evening, she said. Old Sarah would have opened her calendar, made plans, and exhausted herself again. New Sarah simply said, I won't be able to come in the evening either. When people hear your boundaries for the first time, they test them. They push a little to see if you'll fold. The way you pass that test is not by arguing and not by over-explaining. It's by staying calm and holding your line. If you see yourself in this video, or if you have a friend living this, please share it. You might change someone's life. That day I felt this. Saying no didn't end love. It simply began respect.
Miss Sarah, if you could leave young women with one rule in one sentence, what would it be?
I'll give you one sentence, but it carries a lifetime. Don't defend your no, because the moment you start defending it, your decision becomes a suggestion. A decision isn't negotiable. A boundary isn't up for discussion. I confused this for years. I called it good intentions. I called it kindness. But most of the time, I taught the other person this. If I push a little, Sarah will change her mind. My daughter's message that day hurt me deeply. But then something else happened. A few weeks later, she called and said, Mom, sometimes I can't say no either. I was angry with you because you always said yes. I expected you to say yes again. That confession matters because sometimes the people closest to us want us to stay in our old roles. When we change, it makes them uncomfortable. Their comfort zone gets disrupted. But if that comfort zone is slowly eating away at our health, then it needs to be disrupted. After that day, I learned to say no like this. First, I decide. Then I say it in one sentence. Then I repeat it. That's it. No insults, no shouting, just clarity and respect inside that clarity. And let me add this. It's normal to feel bad when you say no. For most women, guilt acts like an alarm because we were taught to put others first. But over time you'll see this. Guilt passes, respect remains. If you constantly say yes, guilt doesn't disappear. Exhaustion grows. If you take one line from this interview and apply it to your life, use it at the first opportunity. It can be something very small, in a text, on a phone call, in response to a request. Then come back and write in the comments, which sentence did you use? Did you say it doesn't work for me? Did you say my decision won't change? Write it so we can support each other. And remember, saying no doesn't end the relationship. Saying no defines the boundaries of the relationship. Even love gets tired inside a relationship with no boundaries. I learned this at 74. I want you to learn it sooner. That's why I especially want you to subscribe, because here, in every video, we practice a sentence, a boundary, a life lesson. Share it so another woman doesn't feel alone when she says no. In the next video, our guest will explain what happened when she finally let go of the always strong role she carried for years at the age of 81. Don't miss that video. I'm Sarah, and today I'm leaving you with this. Don't explain your no, own your no.